Hello, people of the internet. Today, I have the bored foxes again with an inline 3, which I'll explain later, because I am going to make it a sporty version of the car. Now, we do have torsion beam rear suspension there, which is actually, as I come to realise, the same as the Mark IV Golf. I believe that to be the case at least. Same year as this car too, it came out. Although it is stuck on 1997, it should be 2002 because that's about when these sport models were coming out. There was the Clio, but that was 2001, and I think that was a lone standing car though. I think the others all came out in 2002, maybe a bit later than that. So that's what we'll be setting the year to, but we'll be using the same basic chassis and everything as it is a sport version of the same car. Now we will be using the same chassis. Not as stiff as an AHS steel, but to be honest, I don't think we're going to need it with a kind of power outputting. I'm looking to compete with a Focus ST170 kind of level, maybe a Volkswagen Golf Turbo GTI, maybe, I don't know. It depends what we can get from it, I guess, in terms of performance. But anyway, we have got to go through these. Torsion beam rear suspension, McPherson strut on the front. Same front suspension as the Golf as well. It is transverse and it is going to be front wheel drive, not too much to talk about there. I'm thinking, could we go with black trim or anything? No, it's probably best we don't risk it, I'll just mess up the car. Now, we do want some kind of sporty bits here. I'm not sure what I can do. If I go on somewhere I can change the body shape, hopefully. I can do it on one of these menus. There we go. I think we can bring that out. Perhaps more of a touring car bumper. Okay, let's try this again. It doesn't seem to like touring car bumpers. Or maybe the years were just a bit funny and that completely confused the game. Seems to have come fine here, thankfully. Hopefully we can bring the front up. Oh no, I've just realised I'm being stupid here. It is still based on the car. We can fit a larger front bumper, but we don't want to completely redo the front end. I think that's close enough to where it was. If I've messed it up, I messed it up. It's really past saving now. Now, I am going to hopefully do something with the rear bumper as well. No, it won't let me. It's just the boot is part of that, so we'll mess that up. I've lost my tail lights as well, that happened far before, really, so no issue there. We do have a larger front bumper though, that's something, and we are going to change the vents on here. So remove these, hopefully put something more menacing, more sporty in its place. I'm thinking a huge gaping race grille, although it's not by... that's just in the wrong part completely. Although we're not building a crazy high performance car here, I somehow feel it will somehow fit. There we go. I'm not so sure I like it. That's not centered now, but thing is it's trying to get this centered. No, it just doesn't want to center. I don't know what to say about that. So, grab this again. I think this is the one I was on. Turn it upside down. Extend it outwards. I'm thinking a kind of Golf R32 look. Although it never should compete on that level. I just want the touring car look, really. I think it'll look good. From a personal perspective. Oh, yes. Look at these bits. I think we can have different indicators as well. I've had an idea for them. Although they'll probably look horrible when I actually get round to doing it. There we go. It isn't quite the tortoise turbo. I think that was more of a sleeper than this. This you know when it's coming. Ah, no, no. You stay there. I'll try and move the number plate. That's an odd place to position a number plate. I think just for safety's sake, I'll position it right down there. Although really it would be positioned at the top of the grill, somewhere around just below the logo there I've got on the top grill. I'm not doing that now because I'll just mess something up, and I know I will. So it's better to just play it safe, I think, at this point. So we want a lip as well. We want a front lip. Ooh, we actually have various front lips. I think the last video I made, we had these as well. We'll go with this one. Kind of flattens out the front, makes it look a bit more of that kind of square 90s touring car. As I say that, I've messed up that grille. I have managed to snap it back though. Just as I say I snapped it back, I actually messed it up again. And then I fixed it again. Strange how these things work out. I can't seem to make that any wider, so I don't think I need to anyway. The number plate is really odd, but it is there. And we've got these on here. Do we need them there? They weren't my plan, it's just I wanted to see how it looked. So if we go off there, hopefully we can go on some indicators. Yeah, these ones. I'm just trying to think if I want them or not. No! You move in the wrong position. Ah! I didn't want... Oh. How am I going to do this? I never wanted to adjust those. But they're very eager to move. I just wanted to adjust the indicators like I did then, but the side vents, they kept grabbing on and saying, I want to come on an adventure. No, you're not coming on an adventure. You're part of my car. Car parts don't go on an adventure. I think that looks okay. It's slightly off. There we go. But there, now we should have our sporty front end. Anything else we want? We want a wing, of course. Can't really have a sports car without a wing. You can't do much with wings on here. Thankfully, in this particular case, we don't need much. We just need a bit of a little wing on the back. Come on. It doesn't like snapping into place. I think we got it there. And it's out again. This could take a while. Now, I'm just going to leave a wing there for the moment. Oh, actually, yeah, maybe I should move it forwards. I've just realised the slope of the back of this vehicle. Yeah, if it is... Perhaps the other way round even would help. No? I just can't seem to get this as I want it to. I'll have to leave that on. It looks pretty horrible, but it's a wing. I'll do more harm than good trying to fix it. Now here's our engine. I originally finished this off last night and I weren't happy with it, but I did have a quick look at it again and I think I might have just saved it. As you'll see here, it is a 1.2 with a huge turbo on it. I say huge turbo, it's actually quite small, but just with loads of boost. As you'll see there, 29.8 psi. It's mainly going into a torque, to be honest. I don't need that much psi to make the power. I'm probably damaging the engine a lot just to get that bit extra torque, but we've got to compete somehow. And I believe this is 3 torques off the Focus ST170. 3 torques more is what that car has, so we're pretty competitive actually, considering that's got a 2-litre engine and we only have a 1.2, and many vehicles have 1.8s in this class. The power is competitive with the Clio 182 and the Turbo GTI Golf of the era, because why not? They're cars we're trying to compete with, although we do fall short of a Turbo Astra, which with 197 horsepower I believe, we're just not going to rival, especially not with an engine this small. Those cars can get incredible power with Wii maps as well. I did briefly look that up, and you can get 250 horsepower with just a Wii map, so they're monstrous engines we just can't compete with. This is on limit as it is, so yeah. It is light though, under 120 kilograms. But it's another thing I want to go with, because this is a variant of the 1.2 engine I used in the original car. Probably a mistake, to be honest. I should have probably just started over. But yes, we do have an inline 3 with 4 valves per cylinder, full aluminium, and VVL enabled. Now, I did originally have a very low VVL, and that's where I was going wrong. I had a very low VVL and then a high cam profile. But now I have a slightly lower cam profile and a slightly higher VVL, and it works out well for economy. Other things like compression have just fallen into place with where I can really make the power. The turbo compressor is slightly larger than the smallest size available. As you can see there, it's not the biggest turbo in the world. And the turbine is as small as it'll go. I think that bit's a turbine, yeah. You can tell how tiny it is. But it works, so who am I to complain? Air to AR ratio is 1.35. It's fallen into place there. I can make it higher, but it doesn't really do much. You'll see that. If I make it any lower, it starts to lose power. So that's why it's settled there. That, it doesn't really do anything above 29.8, hence why I've kept it there. Torque does gradually build though once you rise up to that PSI, hence why I've left it there. Now we have 28 on the ignition timing. It's surprisingly low actually, but as I say, that's when it makes the power. That's how it makes the power, and it likes making the power like that, so I'm not complaining about it, because if an engine works, you just don't. The RPM limit I've managed to push from 7500 to 7900, which I needed to do because the lag is so terrible. So although I've got perhaps 200 RPM of lag than I did have at one point, I've also increased the rev limit by 400 RPM, so that should compensate. The wed line is also increased by 200 RPM, so the power band has been moved back, but we are making more power overall. The thing is, this engine just doesn't want to rev. It's a tiny inline 3, and it really was designed for economy more than anything. Now, don't get me wrong, there is performance potential here. Although it's only revving to 7800, it can rev quite comfortably to 8300. It's just there's absolutely no point in increasing the wed line. As you'll see, the performance index just doesn't change. So it's only at 7800 because of that. Although it goes down if I drop below that, which is what I was looking for really, try and get the RPM limit as high as it comfortably can for performance. Quality is all on 0, but I have changed two crucial things. Intake is a performance intake as opposed to a standard, because I want to get that bit more power out of it to keep it competitive, and the fuel is now premium. On regular it only makes 43 horsepower, so we don't want that. But I decided being a sports car I could kind of justify that. Now, the weight of the engine, as I said, is very good. Torque is pretty good. And power is pretty good. So, yeah, I think the power is the best in class, if only just. We're getting 30.1 miles per gallon. I have tuned this gearing as well. It's actually fairly tightly geared. That's just the way it came out. It's not the way I'm trying to tune it or anything. I tried longer gear ratios and it didn't really help economy, as you would expect. So that's why I've got the tighter gear ratios. It does 138.9 miles per hour. I believe, again, the best in class. Probably thanks to my aerodynamics, which are really just an illusion because that is not going to be an aerodynamic feature anymore. Yeah, I kind of like it though. I'll probably put some more vents on the side and bits, fake vents. I also have no tail lights. I've probably mentioned that. I will fit some, just to add the sporty touch. I'm not trying to build a tortoise turbo here, remember. It's not even a successor to that vehicle. It's a completely different car. We can see the engine in there. It's a lot smaller than the tortoise turbo as well, but a lot more advanced in order to make its power. They're just so different in so many ways that you can't really compare them. The only thing you can compare is that they're just standard family cars from their respective eras. Now, we have a vicious LSD, mainly because it's a cheap limited slip differential, and we currently have 195 tyres. I did look at the Focus and that had 215s. I'm not so sure about the other cars. I'm looking, honestly. Yeah, the fuel consumption as well. I'll go on that quickly. cars around the class seem to be about 31 to 33 miles per gallon. I get 30, so sure, I do hope this thing is going to be quick in order to compensate for its miles per gallon disadvantage. It was worse at one point though. I had similar miles per gallon to this, yet worse acceleration and I believe less power in the engine. So things aren't great, but they could have been a lot worse. Now here we get some more fun stuff. These wheels just aren't going to do for a touring car. You just don't see a touring car this high off the ground, and you don't see a touring car with these smaller wheels in general. Now, we want some larger, sportier wheels. I think 17 should do the trick. And then we're going to do some lowering of it. Where do we do it? Suspension. Well, I'm also going to go with semi-active sway bars, because I think it's money well spent, to be honest. Material cost is a lot more, but it should stop it rolling as badly. And look at that, it's already looking quite sporty as it is. We could put it on waist suspension, that's a touring car though. We're not quite trying to build a touring car. Although, I should probably bring the rear wheel arches out a bit. They're not quite as wide as they perhaps should be. Actually, I can do it here. There we go. Maybe do it on the front as well. They are quite intensely flared arches, I will admit, for a standard economy car. Or, yeah, it is a standard economy car. It's sportier, but it is still a standard economy car at that. We can go and change the wheels through here. Yes, no, we don't want those. That's what I used on my classic F1 thing. There's not really much available, there's these ones, and it does bring us to a pretty glaringly obvious problem: brakes. We need some larger brakes here. Now, whether I just go and put huge number of pistons on, I don't think that's going to work. We have vented front discs and solid discs on the rear, which I think is pretty standard for this time period, really. So we're just going to make them bigger, really. Solid discs on the front, no, vented discs on the front, and solid discs on the rear. As I've just said, well, I'm repeating myself for some weird reason. 305mm. I think the Golf is 315. If I can just find where the page was a specific page for it. It said everything about the Golf. Where are you? Front tyres on the Golf and rear tyres are 205, so we might be slightly below the class, but I don't think it's a point of concern. I think we can put down the power with 195s just fine, especially since we're on medium compound tyres. They're not exactly cheap rubbish, they are sportier tyres, but we will want some very solid brakes to compensate. And the Golf, I think, is the lightest of all the competitors. So it's lighter than our car at 12-13 kilos. Ours is falling heavier than that. It just will with all the bits on. It was, I think, with just the turbo engine at one point exactly the same, but not anymore. So we're going with 335 front, 305 rear brakes. It looks kind of good, actually. I feel like we should go with larger wheels even. Yes, beautiful. Now it's just a bit too much touring car for the street, I think. Yeah, if only we could go with a proper wing. That's my only complaint. We've got the boot that can handle a proper kind of Impreza style wing, should I say. But we can't add one, unfortunately, because it's not available to us. Should we go with sport compound tyres? I think we will, actually. I think it's worth the extra money. Could hopefully turn this into a grip machine. Don't think we'll need any of the active stuff. Now, downforce? Nah, it will reduce our top speed. Remember, we're not talking a crazy powerful car here. We have a premium interior. I think despite all the extra weight, I'm going with a standard CD system. Hopefully giving people some extra. And I know the Focus definitely had some traction aids, but I don't think we'll need them. For the money it adds electronic complexity as well. I just don't see why you would need it on a car with only 180 horsepower. Even though it was quite a decent amount for the time, I still don't see why you would need it on a car of this power output. Cars were putting out 400. If anything, they're the ones that would have needed traction control. Now, 58.6% front weight distribution, slightly more rearwards than when I started out. It's a front engine front wheel drive car, so we don't really want loads of weight to be at the rear, especially not in the sport model where we want it to get traction quite easily. 1294 kilos. Not bad, by any means. Just looking at how heavy a Renault was, I'm pretty sure the Renault was really light. We do 7.26 0 to 60, which reminds me I need to really go back to the gearing, just make sure it's all on track. And we've gone past where I was at. No, where are we? Ah, we need the menu up. That's why I weren't recognising it. 28.9 miles per gallon. Oh dear. We have messed up bad. Or I say we, I have messed up bad. 28.9. Can we climb? No, we can't. I'm going to leave it there. I can't be bothered redeveloping it. We've fallen back a bit from the Astra because that was 7.0 0 to 60. They were quick cars for front wheel drives in the 2000s. I think they called it GSI Turbo Astra, but no one remembers them. It's odd. Everyone goes on about Golf GTIs and that. No one seems to remember the Astra, which was actually a pretty amazing car for the time. It had suspension done by Lotus as well, so if that's not something to talk about, I don't know what is. And there's me promoting my competitors' products. Okay, so what equipment can we have in our vehicle, I wonder? We have standard CD at the moment. There is basic CD, which I don't want. How much is the price difference? We could also go with sport as well, being what it is. I think we can go with this within a reasonable price. Set that again. Now, that is very expensive. Oh dear. So, is that significantly more expensive then? Yes, it is. We'll just go with premium, if that's how much it is. Pricing difference is huge. I think $17,000 should be reasonable, respective of what this vehicle is. But any more than that, and it really becomes beyond competitive, I think. What do we have in terms of miles per gallon? 28.5 as of yet. But I think we can do better there, so I'll return when I've done some more tweakery. Okay, so I've done some work on the vehicle's engine to hopefully get better standards from it. It's now making less power than it was, but it is more economical, which should hopefully compensate for it somewhat. We make 175 horsepower, and the red line is still fairly high, as it should be. I'll let you hear it now, since before I somehow forgot that part. So, there we go. Hopefully you could hear all the kinds of turbo stuff going on. And I think I've done a pretty good job of it. Why? Because it gets 31.5 miles per gallon, which is with the class, definitely. And we're talking about a 1.2 engine here. I'm quite happy with what I've achieved from it, because you should never have had this engine in a sporty car like this, but I've kind of made it work. I've also added some bits to the back, and I've re-added the tail lights that were missing. We've got quad exhaust now, although it would more likely be one exhaust from the front split into two separate ones and then spat out the back as two kind of fake, I would say fake exhaust, but in my case they would just be two exhausts joined together on a muffler probably at the back. So that would be that. You have remembered though, I've not added anything on the side, so I can do that now. If I go on vents, there we go. We can add something. I'm not quite sure what. I'm just thinking another one of the ones I've got on the back. They work quite well for this kind of stuff. They would be fake vents. They wouldn't really operate, but they would be what you might find on a real car like this, just to make it look more interesting. Kind of a modern Civic Type R has it, although you may call it white because it's a stock vehicle with loads of extra bits on that aren't really necessary. I'm not sure I like the look of this. Can just hopefully sit like that. Now, I have added a bumper bar there. There is thankfully one in the game now that isn't really huge, so we can add bits of trim and stuff. I'm not sure what I'm going to add in this kind of plain blank area there. I could move my very ugly boot handle down. That could do something. It just looks like a weird alien thing from the back, and sadly I still can't do anything with a wing, which is very disappointing. Now, we do have various bits. I think I've gone through all of them and looked. They're the wheels, but I've changed them, so no need to go into that. We have wing and spoiler. Interesting. So there is a difference actually. For some reason I didn't think of it before. Sadly that wing won't let me grab it in any way, shape or form, so that's the one we're stuck with. Yeah, I would prefer the spoiler, I will admit. But yeah, it's not being friendly with me at the moment, for lack of a better term. I've just recalled though, we can get bonnet scoops somewhere around here. Scoop, there we go. One of these would actually look pretty good on it, since I am going for a much more racy look. You can get a bit larger, like so. I'm just trying to find the optimal position. Yeah, I don't want it to look too much like a Subaru Impreza. This is probably a Weiser, if I'm entirely honest. It looks so fast, but it isn't. And it only has a 1.2 litre engine, so yeah, maybe slower than you would expect looking at it. I did take it around the test track once in the older config with the other engine, and it got a 2-minute 30-second time. But I don't think we're going to do that with this config. I'm happy enough with the power now, and we are getting 31.5 miles per gallon though, so it is a competitive vehicle. I just really don't like this engine. I've had enough of it, to be quite honest. It's not bad, and it does do 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds, which for the time was not a bad time. But I just wish I'd used a 2 litre and been a bit more conventional, because it would have been a much better engine. There would have been no lag, and I would probably have been able to get the same amount of power if I really wanted to, maybe even the same amount of torque. Now we do have a premium interior with premium CD player, because that works for price and it gives us a lot more premium potential, let's say. The sport interior is a lot more expensive. I would have gone with that, but it costs a lot more. Maybe it's meaning, I don't know, BMW levels, and as opposed to very well spec'd 1 series, perhaps it means 5 series interior. I'm trying to think of it, but it's definitely above the level I'm thinking of. The suspension is the same, all the same as it is on the standard one, other than the sway bars. To be honest, it's a shame I feel restricted by this, because I'm pretty sure torsion beam isn't the most sporting setup in the world. But hey, it's what the Volkswagen Golf used. It's just what these companies do. They're not made of money. They have to make these cars within reasonable budgets, and you don't do that by just chucking a load of money on stuff that you don't need to chuck money on. And I've just had an idea. Just before I take it around the test track, it does seem kind of ridiculous, and I have no idea for certain if it will work. I just need to find the bumper bars. And if we put one of these down here, it might act like a kind of sporty trim. to go with the front bumper. Kind of sidestep, maybe, but I like it. It's just not quite fitting. Come on. I think this would look good as an estate, to be honest. It might add a bit of weight. Might add a bit of weight though, so we don't want to do that. Right, we'll leave that there. It's good enough for me. Yeah, it's not going to be the biggest car company in the world, mind, so won't be able to just afford to go crazy, but I think with a solid enough base car and a kind of disappointing engine, we've managed to create a nice hot hatchback out of it all. So I'm going to take it around the test track and see how it does. So I have finally got a time I am happy with, and you may already be able to tell it's at the expense of miles per gallon, although the speed is slightly better. Now the time itself is not the one listed here. It is the 231.97 I set just before it. This was just another lap I did to make sure it wasn't a fluke, to make sure it was a fair time and not a one-off or anything. I'm quite happy with it. I think it's a nice sporty front-wheel drive vehicle, and in spite of that engine being what I hadn't expected. Now it is ahead of a tortoise turbo. If it wasn't, I would be pretty embarrassed, although it's not supposed to be a successor to that vehicle. We're talking, what, 25 years of progress, I guess? No, 15 at least, I would say, years of progress in this car. And yeah, so it's not done bad, which is always good. The tortoise turbo, as I was saying, it's a 237 point something. I'm not sure what that was specifically. It got lost in time. But we are more or less, how much? 5 seconds ahead of it. Just trying to calculate it because there's very different numbers everywhere. And 5 seconds isn't bad. Remember, the tortoise turbo was still a powerful vehicle. That was 170 horsepower, this is 175. So not much more power, but I'd say we made better use of it. Now, the problem with efficiency, as we'll see now, we're only getting 30.2 miles per gallon. It's not unacceptable. I mean, I think people, if they love the car, they'll buy it even if the miles per gallon is slightly worse than the competitors. But it is still a disappointment. We have got wider sport tyres though. It filled a lot of the budget, but it worked, so who am I to complain? It added a lot of speed to the vehicle. I'm not sure whether it's just the fact that it's a wide body like this, or whether it's the tyre widths themselves, which I think it is. It's a much wider car than it really has any right to be. Who knows how Ford fit 215s, was it? Same as this, inside the standard Focus body without needing to do any flaring or anything like I have. The wheels are still 17 inches, I didn't bother changing those. Thing is, they are sport wheels as they are. You make them any larger, you just begin eating and eating away at the limited sidewall there is. And I don't want to do that. Plus, it's not an ultra slammed race car, so what would the point be? It's still a road car at its heart. Can fit 225s on the rear apparently. Now, I do have plans for this vehicle in the future, but I think we've got it down with what I want for now. All the qualities on 0, other than the interior, which I did before, and we've got nice infotainment and everything, and I think the price is reasonable. If we look at markets, under $17,000, which is what I was going for in the building of this vehicle. So yeah, it's within the price I want, and it's quick. The tyres are just a lot more than I would have hoped, but then so they would be. It's 1350 kilograms of slightly underpowered hot hatchback in this, so I guess that's just how it works out. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with a beautiful shot of my updated Board Fox Speed. Yeah, I also named it that because it's a sport version. And I'll say, Goodbye, until another day.